You've seen it, right? Millions of people, faces painted, just absolutely losing their minds over a game. But then there are millions of others who just don't get it. So what is going on here? What's behind this huge divide? Well, it's not about passion and it's not about personality. Turns out it all comes down to how your brain is literally wired.
I mean, if you've ever felt like a tourist in your own country during the Super Bowl, just totally surrounded by a language of stats and rivalries that you just don't speak, you are definitely not alone. And we're about to break down exactly why.
Get this, a whopping 60% of Americans say they're sports fans. That means 3 out of every 5 people you meet are deeply invested in a team. So yeah, this isn't just some hobby, it's a massive cultural force, which, can make you feel like you're missing something fundamental if you're on the other side of that divide. But here's the most important takeaway, and what we're really going to unpack today. Not caring about sports isn't some kind of flaw. It doesn't mean you're boring or that you lack passion. It's actually a fascinating feature of your biology and your psychology. And once you understand it, it kind of changes everything.
So, to really get why so many people care so much about sports, we have to go way, way back. Our brains are basically running on some seriously ancient software. And it turns out sports fandom is just a modern day version of old school tribalism.
Now, what's really wild is the role of this hormone, oxytocin. When a fan is watching their team, their brain releases this powerful bonding hormone. This is the exact same chemical that forges that deep connection between, say, a parent and a child. Your brain literally tricks you into feeling like these millionaire athletes are your family. How crazy is that? And this chart just illustrates so perfectly how sports hijacks that old wiring. The need for survival in ancient tribes, that becomes the need for community and identity. Us versus them against a predator becomes us versus them against the rival team. A shared hunt for food becomes a shared victory on the field. It's the same basic programming, just, running a different app.
So, what about the non fan brain? Well, these individuals often have what you could call lower tribal instincts. Their identity just isn't as tied up in being part of a group. They're way more likely to find their sense of self in their own individual pursuits. They're just less prone to that automatic us versus them thinking, and they don't need an enemy team to feel like they belong. But it's not just about belonging. It actually gets way deeper. There's a super powerful chemical reward system at play here that makes being a sports fan incredibly addictive for some people.
The secret ingredient to this addiction is a psychological concept called intermittent reinforcement. Basically, it's when rewards are handed out unpredictably. You have no idea when the good thing is going to happen, and that uncertainty makes you crave it even more. It is the single most powerful and addictive reward schedule that we know of.
Okay, so here's how it works during a game. Every single play is totally uncertain. So your brain gets this little hit of dopamine, that's the pleasure chemical, just from the anticipation. And whether they win or lose that play, your brain is left wanting the next hit. This loop just repeats over and over for 3 hours, turning a game into a constant drip of these little neurological rewards.
And check this out. Brain scans show that watching your team activates the exact same reward centers in the brain as gambling. The whole mechanism is shockingly similar to playing a slot machine. They're both driven by that unpredictable outcome, that intermittent reinforcement that creates this powerful, powerful craving for more. So, if you don't feel that rush, it could just be that your brain's dopamine system isn't wired to be triggered by watching other people compete. In fact, some research even suggests that tiny variations in our dopamine receptor genes might influence how much someone cares about spectator sports. Your indifference might actually have roots deep in your genetic code.
Okay, so we've covered the evolutionary angle and the neuroscience, but there's also this huge psychological piece of the puzzle. How being a fan, or not, connects to our sense of self, our self-esteem, and even our ability to feel empathy. A central concept here is something psychologists call BIR gene, which stands for basking in reflected glory. It's this very human tendency to link our own identity to the success of other people. When your team wins, their glory kind of reflects onto you, and their victory feels like your victory. And this is the classic tell right here. Just notice the pronouns switch. It's always we won, but they lost. People who don't care about sports are just way less likely to do this. Their self-esteem tends to be more stable, and it's less dependent on the wins and losses that are completely outside of their control. Now here's a fascinating twist. It's not that non-fans are missing empathy. It's all about how they budget it. See, we all have a limited capacity for caring really deeply about things. Non-fans just tend to spend their empathy budget elsewhere, on their relationships, on social causes, on art, or on their own creative projects. So this all leads us to the ultimate conclusion here. This isn't about one way being better than the other. It's really about two fundamentally different, but equally valid ways of finding meaning and a sense of narrative in our lives.
So here's the bottom line. A fan finds a really compelling narrative in the epic highs and lows of their team's story. It's a powerful investment for sure, but it's parasocial, meaning it's one-sided. They're a spectator. The non-fan, on the other hand, often prefers to find their narrative in things they can directly engage with, where their investment gets returned. They're a participant in their own life, not just a spectator in someone else's.
Yeah, this quote from the research really just captures the whole thing. For a lot of non fans, there's this feeling of being more present in their own story. Instead of watching someone else's drama unfold on a screen, they are actively engaged in creating and living through their own challenges and their own triumphs. So if you've ever felt left out of the whole sports thing, just remember this: you aren't missing the game. Your brain is just calibrated differently. Your tribal instincts, your dopamine system, your search for meaning, you're just playing a different game with its own set of rules, its own stakes, and its own victories.